On May 11th, 1811, a woman gave birth in a country now known as Thailand, but then known as the Kingdom of Siam. Now, the birth of a baby is always a joyous occasion in any land, as many of you have experienced. This time, however, the joy was double, because much to the mother's surprise, twins were born to her on that day. This was unusual enough, but what made it even more so was the fact that both little boys came into the world together, not even separated by a few minutes, as usually happens with twins. In fact, not only were they not separated by minutes, they were not separated by anything. They were joined together, quite literally joined together. The two brothers were connected to each other at the breastbone, and even their livers were fused together. They became known as the Siamese Twins, and the term has remained ever since for all pairs of conjoined twins. Theirs is a fascinating life story. Chang and Ing were as close as brothers could be. They could not have been any closer, and even if they had wanted to, they could never leave each other's side. Yet even though they were so intimately joined, each was complete, and each had a different personality. Chang, the one on the left, was perhaps intellectually quicker, but also had a quicker temper. His brother Eng was quieter, but with wider interests. Children adapt to almost anything, and circumstances that would seem impossible to most of us are perfectly ordinary to them because they have never known anything else. Thus, the pair of brothers learned to run, jump, and swim, together, of course, and they worked out an amazing system of coordination in all their activities. They worked together, selling eggs to support their mother. At that time, there was a Scottish merchant living in Bangkok. One day, he saw two teenage boys swimming. At first, he thought it was just an everyday scene of a couple of naked youngsters playing together in the water. But as he watched, he became more fascinated because they never parted, and their every movement was perfectly synchronized. Soon he realized that their bodies were indeed joined, and being a businessman, he began to form a plan. He convinced the boy's mother that he could give the twins a fantastic future and fortune, displaying them on tour in various parts of the world. And so began the next adventure for Chang and Eng, who became world famous as the Siamese Twins. Eventually, the brothers settled down in North Carolina, became American citizens, and bought themselves a farm. To everyone's shock and objection, they married a pair of sisters, Adelaide and Sarah Yates. It was an unusual situation, to say the least. But over the years, Chang and Adelaide brought 11 children into the world, while Eng and Sarah had 10 of their own. Before long, though, the two sisters began to dislike each other intensely. Imagine that. And so they moved into separate homes. The brothers would spend 3 days in one home and 3 days in the other. But the fighting between the wives brought tension between the brothers as well. Whereas before, they had always been so much united in everything that people thought they could read each other's minds, now they started to argue, and they even came to blows. That must have been interesting to see. Finally, they went to their family doctor, and demanded that he separate them surgically. The wise old doctor just laid out his instruments and asked calmly, "Would you like me to cut the flesh that connects you, or cut off your heads? Either operation will produce the same results." Well, the twins calmed their tempers and went home, still connected and still alive. In 1870, Chang suffered a stroke, and for the next few years his health declined steadily, while Eng remained quite healthy. On a cold January night in 1874, while the brothers were sleeping, Chang died. When Eng woke up to find his brother dead, he cried out, "Then I am going." 3 hours later, Eng was dead too, and to this day no one is quite sure why. The brothers left the world just as they had entered it, and just as they had lived in it, together. Chang and Eng were inseparable, quite literally inseparable. No one ever saw one without the other. That would have been quite impossible, of course. Once referred to as the eighth wonder of the world, they gave unique and radical witness to the truth that as human beings we are all connected. As conjoined twins, they were connected by flesh and cartilage. As fellow human beings, we are connected to each other at a far deeper level. Can we stand it? Most of us would find it burdensome to be so constantly and inseparably joined to another. We value our supposed independence. We treasure our imaginary privacy. And besides, there is probably nobody in the world we like so much that we don't sometimes need a bit of separation. Yet we hear of Jesus sending out his followers not one at a time, but 2 by 2. Now, anyone who has ever traveled with another person knows that this is at times consoling and at times annoying. For Jesus, though, 2 seemed to be the special number, not 1. I remember as a child being consoled by stories of a very special being who was always with us day and night, who never left us, always protected us, always was there to guide us. We called that special person a guardian angel. And I always imagined mine to be a sort of invisible Siamese twin who would be around as long as I was. I still believe in guardian angels. They are with us every step. We are truly never alone. Our angels show us, just as Chang and Eng show us, the awesome reality of connection. They show us that every Chang needs his Eng. Every Eng needs his Chang. Every child, every woman, and every man needs an angel. Every person, Siamese or American, twin, triplet, or octuplet, is called to be an angel. No one comes into this world alone, and no one leaves it alone. There are no single births. There is no separation, only connection. Angels and human beings inseparably, irreparably, irresistibly joined